This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Agricultural educators across the country devote countless hours, often their own resources, to positively impact the lives of their students. Nationwide, along with Ohio Farm Bureau and Ohio FFA, recognizing the state's Ag Educator of the Year with the coveted Golden Owl Award, and along with it, $5,000 in funding to help bring new opportunities to their programs. Joining us on the podcast this week, Devin Furman. He is Chief Agriculture and Sponsor Relations Officer at Nationwide. Devin, great to see you.
Very good to see you too.
Also pleased to have the 2024 Golden Owl Award winner from Versailles High School, Mrs. Dina Webker, on the podcast. Dina, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, I guess first of all, congratulations. This is quite an honor. You know that those that have won this award in the past also have quite a resume when it comes to their work through Ohio FFA. Can you tell us about your ag program there at Versailles High School?
Yes. So I just finished my 30th year. I started in 1994, so just finished my 30th year. So looking forward here in August to year 31. So a little bit about Versailles. We average around 100 students per class, a very rural sort of community. And this past year we had like 108. We've been averaging around 185 to 187 students. We actually, this coming school year, have like 230 plus enrolled for the program. So 7 years ago, I got a teaching partner, which is absolutely awesome. Her name is Taylor Bergman, and she was from Ansonia, the neighboring school district. And so she joined me, and that's been awesome. We teach a wide variety of courses. I mostly teach, this past couple years, I've been teaching the greenhouse management course. So we moved into a new school facility 12 years ago, and we got a greenhouse. And so that's kind of one of my projects, that I oversee the greenhouse and teach a greenhouse management course. And then I teach a lot of the mechanical principles courses. So those are a little bit more of the laboratory-based courses where we focus on welding, electricity, hydraulics, small engines, as kind of the big focus throughout the year. And then I teach an advanced course. And then I also teach AF&R, which is Ag, Food, and Natural Resources. And so this will be our 13th year coming up that we start 8th graders. So this coming year, we have 46 8th graders that are enrolled in Ag, Food, and Natural Resources. It's a whole year class. They're FFA members. And so it just kind of gets them a jump start and gives them a little bit more opportunities, especially when they're older, if they have interest in applying for some different state and national type of awards. So it's awesome. Versailles is a very agricultural oriented community. We still have lots of family farms here, and we also have very diversified agriculture, but definitely poultry is our main focus here in Versailles. So there's about 10 million egg layers in the skirts of Versailles and within the school district. And so lots of eggs and lots of opportunities for our students in terms of jobs and placements, and lots of great businesses and community members and parents that help support the program. So it's been awesome here at Versailles.
I love to hear about the growth. You mentioned that you're going to have over 200 students there next year, and the numbers just keep going up. And that's for the entire organization. National
Right.
FFA, those numbers are increasing by the thousands every year. Why are we seeing that?
Well, I think a couple of different, I think it's kind of a couple of different reasons, but we try to promote our program a lot, and through newspaper and Facebook and those type of things. So I think, it's constant promotion here at school about our program. But I think students really also see the value of the FFA program in terms of those lifetime skills that they can pick up. So a lot of those students, I always say you've got to hopefully you have some kind of interest. If not, I'll foster that interest, within the agriculture, natural resources, environment sort of community. But a lot of those students really are looking forward to, those leadership and communication and responsibility and some of those lifetime type of skills that we are really, really known for within the FFA organization and helping build in our members. So I really think that that's part of it. And I think also students realize, it is such a diverse field, from somebody that's interested in maybe being a golf course superintendent to a food scientist, to a veterinarian, that there's so many different opportunities out there for students. And so I think that the misconception, we still face it a little bit here, but there's still a little bit of misconception about, you have to live on a farm to be involved in our class. And that's not true. And I think also, like my chapter president this year, I mean, he lives within town, but has, interest in the agricultural industry, he's done his SAE, which is supervised agriculture experience, got a project, and he milks for a dairy farmer. I think he's going to be a doctor someday. He's a very bright young man. But I mean, the lifetime skills that he is learning, will propel all of our students for the future. So I think that's really the big piece, is that, diverse careers that are out there, and then the FFA piece where they can really pick up those valuable lifetime skills.
Devin Furman, Mrs. Webker, one of the many nominations made for this year's award. It goes to show just how many great teachers we have across the Buckeye State. Why is it important for Nationwide to recognize their work?
Well, a lot of what Ms. Webker just was talking about here, that Ohio specifically, and many of those states that Nationwide does business in, there's a lot of agricultural business, and one of those big businesses in Ohio specifically is Nationwide. We have a deep agricultural history. It dates back to our founding by the Ohio Farm Bureau in 1926. And since then, we have been a proud supporter of agriculture. And it's one of those things, as you think about the state specifically in Ohio, ag is still the number one business. And as we've been talking about here, I think there's interest from everybody on, like, where does their food come? How is it produced? How does it support the communities in which people live and serve? And there's this greater agriculture community that's important to this state. And I actually believe these kids really recognize that. And there's a higher level of popularity in ag right now when people are thinking about where their food comes from. We see a lot of restaurants that are now farm to fork, and everybody starts to get a little more curious about, well, what does that really mean? What they find is actually what Ms. Webker just said, is it's not always driving a tractor and planting the fields and harvesting the crop, but maybe it's in food science, and maybe it's in financial, or even in insurance. And we want to be able to support that. We want to be able to put something behind the hard work that ag educators put in across the state and multiple states that we do business in, and support them, because they're doing great work and really building the next generation of leaders that are going to take agriculture into the future and really support the communities in which we live and serve every single day.
Dina, you mentioned you've been doing this now for 3 decades. What made you want to become an agricultural educator all those years ago?
Well, I grew up in Coshocton County on a family dairy farm. I actually never heard of Versailles growing up. So it wasn't until I went to Ohio State University, and on the first day of college, I met this young man by the name of Jeff Webker. So I knew if I was interested in him, I was interested in the town of Versailles in Dart County. So the rest of that, of course, is history. So we'll be married 30 years in November as well. But really, it kind of, it goes back to my childhood. I grew up on a very diversified family dairy farm, and my mom was an educator. My grandpa was back in that day, he was a one school principal and an administrator. And at one particular time, we counted up that there was like 30 plus of my aunts and uncles and first cousins that were all involved in education. So lots of people involved in education. I was very privileged my senior year to be elected to serve as a state FFA officer. And so 1988 to 89, I served as the District 8 president. Now they have the vice presidents at large. And then I went on the next year and served as state FFA president. And that was definitely a very eye-opening experience for me. And from that experience, I really decided that I wanted to go into agriculture education. Kind of a little bit prior to that, I probably really highly considered going back to the family farm. But from that experience, and I had Nate McNeil as my agriculture education instructor, absolutely wonderful, a wonderful mentor. And it was kind of through his interest, helping me get interested, and probably through my experiences through FFA, through my experiences of FFA, that kind of led me into the agriculture education field. I went to Ohio State and had lots of great mentors there. And then I student taught here at Versailles with Sam Custer in 1993. And Sam then decided to go on to Miami Valley CTC to be the supervisor. And so I actually, for a very short period of time, was the 4-H agent in Miami County. And I can remember the superintendent actually came to interview me at 4-H camp because I was in charge of that, and came there to interview me, and I took the position, and the rest is history. So, I feel as if, I was created for a definite purpose, and to me, my definite purpose is to teach ag. So I do have my principal's license, and I've had that for a long time, but I've been offered a couple jobs, but when it came down to it, I couldn't leave the profession. So I enjoy what I'm doing, and very passionate about what I do. So that's where it all started.
For those who have not been involved in FFA, it's very different from other types of high school classes. No 2 days are alike. There are so many diverse learning opportunities. You mentioned a couple of them that you do right there at Versailles as we started the conversation. You talk about those unique ways that you teach, and Devin mentioned it as well, all the different opportunities. How do you get these kids to understand they don't have to be a farmer to be involved in agriculture?
Yeah. So again, that's just, a continued stereotype that we still have to, that we still have to go, that's still an obstacle for us. But, they see a lot of the different kids that are involved in the program, and they see, our officers that have very sort of diverse backgrounds. And of course, the different courses that we're teaching, and, the hands-on part that many of them enjoy, being, out in the laboratory and the greenhouse type of setting that we have. My teaching partner, she teaches some food science courses, environmental natural resources. So we have kind of a wetland sort of natural resource area that they can go out to as well. But just, exposing students to so many different opportunities. And of course, the majority of our students enjoy hands-on type of activities. So, that's where what they enjoy doing, and physically, being able to, I always try to teach everything in the classroom, and then try, to go out then to the shop and try to put it into hands-on practication where they can really, where they can see the value of it. So, I think that's just, continued exposure to those, to everyone and the students within the school, and they see what they're doing and their activities. And we try to promote our program, through lots of different avenues. Through the newspaper, and a lot of people joke with me that they don't know what they'd put in the policy if it wasn't for the FFA activities. But I'm very fortunate that we have a local newspaper that loves to publish our activities. So, we again just constantly are trying to tell our story of what we're doing, and the value of our program.
We can see why, Dina, you were our Golden Owl Award winner this year, and you represent a group of people who do have a story to tell. And unfortunately, we're, across the country, we're about 200 to 400 teachers short of where we need to be to support the type of work that you do. But I wanted to lean in on something you were just talking about there, about all the different things that the kids can do, the diversity of educational opportunities, but it also provides a great way for them to build teamwork. And if you think about those future skills you talked about earlier, I was an FFA officer. I'm still using the skills I learned in FFA even today, 30 plus years later. But I remember those things. They are vivid because of the hands-on experience you just talked about, the teamwork that it promotes, the organization that you provide around that, to give them that environment to grow and learn, and for that stuff to stick. That is why it's so important to have these, educational opportunities in our schools. And Ohio does such a great job of promoting that. But part of the goal now is to promote ag education and how important it is, and the type of leaders that we develop with and through those programs, not just FFA, but the day-to-day learning that takes place in the classroom, in the laboratory, in the field, or whatever it might be. So, Ty, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I wanted to lean in on that because it's so important, I think, for your listeners to hear that, and why Dina is such a great example of why we celebrate this in this way.
Yeah, and Devin, I was going to mention with what you do at Nationwide and what I do at Farm Bureau, working with the Ohio State University, we're seeing technologies and career opportunities that we don't even know about yet. They're going to be developed in the next 10, 15, 20 years that are really exciting.
Yeah, I think well, I've heard it many times this year, even as I've been out visiting with communities, and I've spent some time with FFA leaders and young adults who are, trying to think about what their future is going to be, and they're pretty tech savvy, and they get pretty interested really fast when they find out that, the automation that's taking place in agriculture today and the type of science that goes behind growing something, whether it be a crop or livestock, um, or feeding out. It's just the technology is really advanced, and how we're using sustainable agriculture to really drive the future of agriculture in a positive way so that it can be, you know, agriculture is pretty environmentally sound, but it could be even more. And these kids are really interested in, well, what does that mean and how does it work? And once they start to find out what that is, they get super interested and super engaged. And an engaged student is a good thing, as we think about those leaders that are going to be coming out of high school and college and so forth.
Dina, I mentioned along with this recognition of the 2024 Golden Owl Award, you get $5,000 to continue great agriculture education there at Versailles High School. How do you see that being utilized?
Well, a couple of different things. One, I just attended Ag Teacher Conference, and one of the things that I guess I have always been very passionate about, also to my students, is community service. And I have a quote behind my desk that says, "Service is the rent that we pay for living." And so I kind of we require our students to do a certain amount of FFA activities, and also within that a certain amount of community service within the year. So it's one of the things that I've always what's one of the things that my parents instilled in me from a very young age, is to be a servant leader. And so one of the things that we have kind of focused on here in different sort of capacities is farm safety. So as you know, agriculture is an extremely dangerous industry. And so we've had some very unfortunate accidents and some untimely sort of accidents. And so it's not uncommon that each year we put on some sort of farm safety program. So every other year we do an EMT firefighters farm safety program. So about 20 plus years ago, it was a teacher here at school, and he's a volunteer. And he said, agriculture equipment is so advanced. He said, I'm not sure if I came upon a scene, if I would know exactly what to do today. And so we've kind of taken that upon ourselves. And every other year, we do a firefighter EMT farm safety program. This is kind of our off year. So I'm always looking, and I've worked a lot of times with Dee Jepson at Ohio State University. And so when I was at Ag Teacher Conference last week, I saw that she's got and I just ordered that. So that's one thing for sure. It's a hands-on farm safety kit. It's kind of like the old Skillathon kits is what it's like. But this one's all focused on farm safety. And so we have an annual, very large farm day program. We have about 800 students that go to a farm in the spring. And then we also we do a farm safety program with the second graders. So we're always looking for new resources. So that is one thing for sure that we have purchased, going to purchase with the money. And also we've got a couple new programs that we're kind of looking to implement within kind of FFA and community service. So some of that with that. And then also looking at some different shop equipment. So laboratory sort of equipment. That's kind of where the majority of it's probably going to go, is towards some new lab equipment. So I've got some quotes in there and adding some money to it, maybe like a metal engraver. So
Devin, it's got to be great to hear that funding is going to go to these types of projects, especially the risk management part on the farm with the viewpoint of Nationwide. The nomination process for the 2025 Golden Owl Award is coming up soon. What do listeners and viewers need to know as we get closer to that date?
Yeah, we're almost there actually. With the nominations are going to be starting here in September, and then they run through December 31st. And anybody can nominate. So it doesn't have to be a teacher or a student. It could be anybody in the community who wants to recognize their ag educator, their FFA advisor, someone they would like to recognize. And It's always a very competitive set. I think last year in the 11 states where we have the Golden Owl Award, 3,500 nominations. But 500 of them came from Ohio. And so we have a lot of great educators out there. But it just goes to show you why Dina is, very special in that she won a lot of nominations out there, but there were definite reasons. And I just loved hearing, by the way, the work you're doing on the farm safety side. I know you're spending some money on that, but maybe we can connect afterwards. Maybe I can save you a few bucks by offering a few nationwide resources on things like grain bin safety and fire prevention. And we have a new program out now. It's called ATV/UTV safety, which is called championing rider safety. So maybe
Yeah,
we can
that would
talk about
be
that a little bit.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, this conversation really does emphasize just how tightly knit Ohio agriculture is between nationwide Ohio Farm Bureau, Ohio FFA, and what the FFA chapters there locally are doing. Great to talk to you both. Devin Furman is Chief Agriculture and Sponsor Relations Officer at Nationwide, and the 2024 Golden Owl Award winner from Versailles High School, Dina Webker. Thank you both so much. Appreciate the
Thank you.
conversation.
Thanks, Ty.
Find out how Nationwide Agribusiness can help you grow your business. Get to know the people with the experience and knowledge to help you. Whether you are looking to protect your farm or ranch from the ground up, or need someone who understands your changing commercial ag needs. Find out how to better manage the risks of your ag business, or how quickly you can get back to business. Learn how you can protect your next with Nationwide on your side.
Who feeds your need for new ideas for your family's best farm future? Ohio Farm Bureau. We work with our members to shape ag policy that will positively impact our industry. Farm Bureau is advancing business solutions to give you a competitive advantage. We help you gather information to stay ahead of important topics and technologies. Plus, Ohio Farm Bureau creates opportunities for growth. Ohio Farm Bureau, feeding your need for new ideas.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Farm transitions and succession planning, two important issues for agriculture and the viability of the future of Ohio's #1 industry. New research just conducted by the Ohio State College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences on the topic. The undergrad student who conducted the research and her professor join us this week on the podcast. Rihanna Teege, the student, Margaret Judlowski, the assistant professor in the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences, Department of Ag, Environmental, and Development Economics. Great to see you both. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Ty. It's great to be here.
Thanks, Ty.
Rihanna, why was this a topic that you wanted to take a deeper dive into?
Thanks. I appreciate the question to start off here. So I was raised on my family's farm in Northwest Ohio, and I, along with my brothers, have a strong desire to return to the family farm, but how should that happen? And how can we ensure that it's fair for both my generation and their generation? And so understanding this at my family's level, I started to ask questions to others within CFAES and then at different conferences across the country. And I realized that it wasn't a problem just in my family, but many others are experiencing it as well. Very surprisingly, many of my peers have a strong desire to return to their family farm, but their parents aren't willing to have the conversation to understand what this might look like for both generations. And so upon entering college, I majored in agribusiness and applied economics and minored in consumer and family financial services. So I was able to get a little bit of a taste of financial planning and kind of how the succession planning piece fit into agriculture. So was very thankful that Dr. Jedlowski let me team up with her to complete this research and enjoyed the whole process.
Dr. Judlowski, it seems like we talk a lot about succession planning within the farming community, but it seems there's still quite a bit of work to do. Why is this topic so challenging to talk about?
It's challenging for a few different reasons, and a lot of them are sort of what Rihanna was hinting at there. It brings together this sort of weird combination of psychology and economics that makes it really difficult for people to have the conversation about. And oftentimes the problem is going to be very unique to an individual operation. So it's something that people are either not willing to talk about. And, anytime families are involved, there's the tendency for there to be drama, skeletons in the closet, bad relationships, any of those things can contribute to there being an unwillingness to have that conversation, which makes it even more difficult for when an outside researcher like myself or like Rihanna comes in to ask more questions about it. That makes the challenge even that much greater. And so Rihanna says she's grateful to me. I'm grateful for her to be willing to take this on, because it's really a understudied topic. If you look at the literature sort of nationwide, let alone in Ohio, there's, a handful of papers on the question, when it is, as you say, so important.
You brought up a great point. So, Rihanna, you send out a survey about this topic that people don't want to talk about. How responsive was the ag community to this survey, and what were the challenges in collecting this data?
Definitely. So I assembled a survey on Qualtrics and then used personal and professional connections and networks to distribute it. So as a result, 186 farmers responded from 39 different counties. So obviously, not quite half the state, but we were pretty happy with the timeline and the resources that were available. So it was quite interesting to see the differences in age of those respondents, but also it was a survey of convenience. So we have to understand that some of the older generation maybe didn't fill out the survey as they didn't necessarily know how to use the online resource. So definitely would love to continue to push this survey out in the future, but for now, that's what we were able to collect.
What were some of the things you were looking for as you did this research?
Yep. So the survey included questions on both the farm characteristics as well as the operator and the operator's family characteristics. So looking at farm size, farm location, type of production, but as well as family characteristics, like I mentioned. So number of children, the age of the children, operator education, operator off-farm income, and then expansion opportunities as well. So as we know it, farm succession includes more than just the transfer of assets, but also the transfer of the overall operation. So it was really interesting to use the survey to dive deeper into what current farm transition looks like in Ohio.
What did results tell you?
Yeah, so the results definitely were a little bit surprising, but not overly. We saw some of the different factors like income have a correlation with the likelihood of having a succession plan, but some of the other factors like education didn't really have a strong correlation with the presence of a succession plan. So I'm excited to continue to dive into the data and see what else we can learn.
Dr. Dudlowski, how do you see Rihanna's research being utilized?
I can see this going in a lot of different directions. So not only, as she said, expanding the survey, continuing to do the survey, maybe doing the survey year over year to examine trends over time and how things are changing, but also to inform the already amazing work going on at Ohio State around farm succession planning, which we would be remiss if we didn't mention. We have some people here who have really devoted their lives and their professional lives certainly to studying this topic. And these data can go really far towards informing their work, understanding which sorts of populations are best targeted for this kind of education around this subject, and also for making this point to the broader farming community that we are so worried about the future of agriculture, but we're worried about it on a sector level, but when it comes to the individual operation level, that conversation, it stalls out, and we end up in the situation that we're in now, where we're facing, farm consolidation really statewide and nationwide even. And so I think it has a lot of, the policy relevance is huge. And then the educational or research opportunities, because as I said, it's very understudied, are really magnificent, because I don't think that there's another survey like this anywhere in the country right now.
Rihanna, Dr. Dudlowski mentioned how this is for a broader farming audience, but you mentioned that you have a farm background. You came to school with this interest in mind. How have you been able to use these results to maybe share these findings with your family or maybe close friends that really got this project started for you? Were you able to really use it personally on a level?
Definitely. So kind of as we've mentioned before, these conversations are very emotional, but if you're able to kind of take the emotions out of it and really understand from a business level why these conversations are important, it helps to spark them. They're still not easy, and you have to navigate the waters carefully, but that's helped me come into the operation and explain some of these different resources that are available, and why it's important that we get everything lined up. And then, like you mentioned, the peer aspect, it's fun to talk to my friends and try to understand what their situations are like. And it also gives me a little bit more confidence too, knowing that we're not the only family maybe experiencing some challenges, but also sharing our perspective with those friends and peers who are looking to enter the agricultural industry as well.
Margaret, what impressed you about Rihanna's efforts? And I have to ask, what was her final grade on this project?
Well, my lips, I think FERPA would have a lot to say if I broadcast that far and wide. But I think I can say, I think this is public information, that Rihanna graduated summa cum laude from The Ohio State University this May. And as an advisor, there's, I think, nothing has come close to how proud I was of that moment when, we opened the diploma and we saw that. I think that really summarizes her achievements, not only in this research project, but also, in all of her other classes as well. So that goes without saying. But in terms of what impressed me, what didn't impress me, I think it was, I was an ambitious, I think, advisor, in that I had a lot of ideas, and Rihanna, everything I came up with, she said, let's figure it out. Let's try and do it. Even collecting the data itself. I don't know of a lot of other undergraduate researchers. I don't think they collect their own firsthand data, particularly in economics. It's hard to get that done in the time frame mentioned. And so 186 responses is absolutely fantastic, given we were up against university graduation deadlines and all sorts of other deadlines as well. But her willingness to just jump in and say, yeah, let's do it. We met on the weekends, we met, off hours, just to get this done. And, it was a real dream come true in terms of the research opportunities.
Is there an opportunity for our listeners and viewers to be able to go and see this research somewhere online?
Not yet. We are working on getting that publicized. We have one more hurdle to clear in terms of data confidentiality. That is something, obviously, people are sharing things that are relatively personal, and so we want to make sure that everything is cleared from that perspective. But very, very shortly, we will have a full report. And I will say, though, that Rihanna's undergraduate project is publicly available. If you search "Securing the Future of the Farm," OSU, I'm sure it'll come up, and I can share the link, Ty, as well. If people are interested, but it's a more of an academic document than a sort of broader facing portfolio, but it is in the works, certainly.
Tough conversations, but much needed conversations within the ag community across Ohio and really across the country. Rihanna TG, the student here in this conversation that did the research for Ohio State, her professor, Margaret Judlowski, she's with the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences, Department of Ag, Environmental and Development Economics. That has to be one really long business card, Dr. Judlowski.
Yeah, I got a super-sized wallet for it.
Appreciate you both very much. And just as a side note, Rihanna is also the discussion meet winner this year for the Collegiate Farm Bureau. And you can see why for this conversation we just had. So congratulations on everything you were able to accomplish this year, Rihanna. And thank you so much for both of you being on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Ty. I appreciate the support.
Yep, it was great to be here, as always.